Continue Ryokan Dewdrops on a Lotus Leaf, Part 8. Lipo. After a promenade in the green fields, accompanied by a spring wind, Lipo naps peacefully by his desk. My host asked to inscribe a painting of the poet. That's easy since I love wine as much as Lipo did. Tufu. What's this about Tufu? Tufu is, I thought, a Chinese poet. But anyways, it says, enchanted by blossoms, beguiled by willows. Tufu hid out in a deep valley. Mounted on a horse, he roamed about gloriously drunk. In his dreams, he found himself back at court, dashing off poems for the emperor's edification. This one's called Brush and Inkstone. How is my karma related to my brush and inkstone? Question mark. Over and over I write and write. The only one who really knows the reason is the great hero Buddha. Interesting. Now, Ryokan is a famous calligrapher known for his beautiful writing. And Li Po and Tu Fu, which I just read, were the two greatest poets of Tang China. Apparently he's reading Chinese poetry. I'll read this one again. How is my karma related to the brush and inkstone question? Over and over I write and write. The only one who really knows the reason is the great hero Buddha. The districts of Ichigo are full of beauties, and today a group of lovelies sport along a river greener than brocade. Hair finely dressed with white jade hairpins, delicate hands revealing just a glimpse of scarlet undergrounds. Maidens braid grass into garlands as gifts for young lords, and gather branches of flowers as they flirt with passers-by. Yet this charming coquetry is melancholy somehow, for it won't outlast their songs and laughter. The courtesans are turned out in their best. How delightfully they speak and laugh along the lovely green river. They call out to gentlemen the day long and tempt them with songs that charm the hardest heart. They mince about with flirtatious glances so difficult to resist. Some day, though, even these captivating women will have nothing left, and they will be left out in the harsh cold. Spring sunset, a willowy miss of 16, returns home with an armful of mountain blossoms. A drizzle caresses her flowers. She turns heads as she goes by, her kimono held up with a slight hitch. People ask each other, whose daughter is that? Long ago, a pretty girl lived next door. She used to pick mulberries in a distant grove. Returning with their white arms full of gold and silver branches, she sang with a heart-rending voice and sparkled with life. Young flowers put aside their hoes when they saw her, and many forgot to return home when she was around. Now she is just a white-haired granny, burdened with the aches and pains of old age. Here's a picture of Ryokan some children in the village. We're reading from the Dewdrops on a Lotus Leaf. Now it says, poem composed following a terrible earthquake. Day after day after day, at noon and midnight the cold was piercing. The sky was thick with black clouds that blocked out the sun. Fierce winds howled, snow swirled violently, wild waves stormed heaven, buffeting monster fish. Walls trembled and shook, people shrieked in terror. Looking back at the past 40 years, I now see that things were racing out of control. People had grown lax and indifferent, forming factions and fighting among themselves. They forgot about obligations and duty, ignored notions of loyalty and justice, and only thought of themselves. Full of self-conceit, they cheated each other, creating an endless filthy mess. The world was rife with madness. No one shared my concern. Things got worse until the final disaster struck. Few were aware that the world was star-crossed and dreadfully out of kilter. If you really want to understand this tragedy, look deep inside rather than helplessly bemoan your cruel fate. Leave off your mad rush for gold and jewels. I've got something far more precious for you. A bright pearl that sparkles more brilliantly than the sun and moon, and illuminates each and every eye. Lose it, and you'll wallow in a sea of pain. Find it, and you'll safely reach the other shore. I'd freely present this treasure to anyone, but hardly anyone asks for it. Mm-hmm. Very good. For Hachisuki and untouchable, gold and silver, status and power, all return to heaven and earth. Profit and loss, having and lacking, are all essentially empty. Aristocrats and peasants, saints and sinners end up the same. We are bound by fate to the whirl of existence. How lamentable the beggar of Rogoku's bridge who perished in a dreadful flood. If you ask me his whereabouts, I'd reply, in the heart of the moon's reflection on the waves. There's Ryokan's picture. I don't know if he drew these or what. I don't know, which maybe he did. In my dreams, Mother's form appears morning and night in the distant mist surrounding Sado Island. That's a part of that picture. And his poem goes, time passes. There is no way we can hold it back. Why then do thoughts linger on long after everything else is gone? Good question. You think that's a good question? It says, time passes, there is no way we can hold it back. Why then do thoughts linger on long after everything else is gone? It doesn't make sense that the thoughts continue.
Oh, they are testimony of another
Hmm?
existence that doesn't have time.
Well, as a Zen Buddhist, he doesn't like those thoughts lingering on, and he wants them to get rid of them. He wants to be in the present moment. Or he is in the present moment. For children killed in a smallpox epidemic. When spring arrives, from every tree tip flowers will bloom. But those children who fell with last autumn's leaves will never return. Keep your heart clear and transparent, and you will never be bound. A single disturbed thought, though, creates 10,000 distractions. My God. One disturbed thought. It's amazing. Let myriad things captivate you, and you'll go further and further astray. How painful to see people all wrapped up in themselves. Yeah, he's right. Like one disturbed thought can mess up your whole day. He doesn't say a single thought, though. He says a disturbed thought. You could probably have a thought and not create 10,000 more, but here he says, keep your heart clear and transparent. It's a good poem here. I'm going to do a screenshot. Remember how Ryokan was doing post-it notes, or he's posting poems around his hut? He was doing postings on Instagram or something. But he posted them, and he was the only one reading them. He says, keep your heart clear and transparent, and you will never be bound. A single disturbed thought, though, creates 10,000 distractions. Let myriad things captivate you, and you'll go further and further astray. How painful to see people all wrapped up in themselves. Very good. I watch people in the world throw away their lives lusting after things, never able to satisfy their desires, falling into deep despair and torturing themselves. Even if they get what they want, how long will they be able to enjoy it? For one heavenly pleasure they suffer 10 torments of hell, binding themselves more firmly to the grindstone. Such people are like monkeys, frantically grasping for the moon and the water, and then falling into a whirlpool. How endlessly those caught up in the floating world suffer. Despite myself, I fret over them all night, and cannot staunch my flow of tears. It's sad about the people. He says, sometimes I sit quietly, listening to the sound of falling leaves. Peaceful indeed is the life of a monk, cut off from all worldly matters. Then why do I shed these tears? I'm so aware that it's all unreal. One by one the things of this world pass on. But why do I still grieve? It's interesting how Segyo asked that question. Why did I feel an emotion? Right? After he left the world, everything should have been perfectly fine, and he meditated, and then he felt an emotion. And then Ryokan has the same emotion. He says he has a feeling. How could an enlightened monk have a feeling? Even a tear. Anyways, he says, sometimes I sit quietly, listening to the sound of falling leaves. Peaceful indeed is the life of a monk, cut off from all worldly matters. Then why do I shed these tears? I'm so aware that it's all unreal. One by one the things of this world pass on. But why do I still grieve? Yeah, why do you have to grieve over it? I guess it's habitual grieving. I don't know. We're reading from Ryokan Dewdrops. Dewdrops on a Lotus Leaf by John Stevens. Courtesy of Simply E, or the New York Public Library online.